GCSE Business Studies, Unit 4.1, The Benefits of Good Business Communication. This short video will cover the main content from this unit. You may find it useful to pause the recording if you need more time to read the information on screen. The specification is what you need to know, and this suggests that there are a range of effects arising from good business communication. These effects include boosting sales, for example through effective advertising, improved motivation, perhaps due to a business communicating with its workers more effectively, and building trust and reputation. We'll now consider how these advantages can be achieved. But before we get into the detail, let's recap the communication model. You'll remember that this model involves a sender and a receiver. The sender uses a medium, of which there are many types, email, letter, conversation, advert, etc., to convey a message. The sender will know whether or not the message has been understood by the feedback they receive. For example, a business communicating with customers through a TV advert will know it has been successful if sales increase. This is the feedback. Remember, feedback does not mean getting feedback on the quality of a message or the communication type. So what are the benefits to the business from good communication? Firstly, an increase in sales, perhaps through advertising. Reputation and trust can be enhanced by a business communicating effectively with stakeholder groups. Good communication with employees can influence motivation and lead to improved efficiency and productivity. Other benefits might include improving product information and highlighting the aims and objectives of the business, one of which is social credentials. Social credentials are qualities a business shows in looking after the interests of all of its stakeholders and not just its shareholders. For example, a business might sponsor a local football team. It doesn't need to do this, but does so out of a sense of social obligation. Communicating this action can lead to benefits for the business in terms of its reputation. So let's have a look at some examples of the types of effects that businesses might achieve as a result of good communication. The table here shows examples of good communication and what the impact of these might be. I'm choosing one to focus on. So, a business has monthly meetings face-to-face with employees to discuss targets and performance. This process is called appraisal. The impact of this is that employees feel like they are valued and therefore more motivated. As a result of this motivation, productivity, which is the output per worker in the business, actually increases. And the business has achieved this all by communicating effectively with its employees. Note that this is the structure of a 3-mark explain question. So let's move to exam type questions then around this topic. Cineworld communicates with its customers and potential customers by sending electronic newsletters by email. An example is shown here. If you were asked to explain a benefit to Cineworld of this type of communication, what would you say? Look at the exemplar response. You may want to pause the recording at this point to read this response. So what has this student done? Well, they've provided a clear structure, a chain of reasoning. It is clearly in the context of cinema and film. And it also shows original thinking and makes use of business knowledge. It's a good response. It's worth 3 marks. Now look at another response. Once again, you might want to pause at this point to read this through. Once again, there's a clear chain of reasoning and it is clearly in the context of cinema and film. Really important to get into the habit of developing lines of argument using the explain question approach. Final thoughts then. This topic is not a particularly challenging one. A key for you to bear in mind is that the business must make sure that it uses the appropriate method of communication when it is communicating with its stakeholders. If it can do that, it's got a better chance of achieving some of the benefits outlined in this recording.